on, everyone? How you guys doing tonight? Good, good. Hey, thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for being here. I really do appreciate it. You guys have been great. I'll tell you guys a little bit about my week. Thanksgiving obviously just passed, right? Thanksgiving is important. I like Thanksgiving. My family's religious, so we always say grace before we have Thanksgiving dinner. And it's important to me because that's like the only time that I'll pray, right? Like the only other time I pray is if my girlfriend misses her period. That's like the only time, and I start making promises like, oh, I'll be a better person, I'll give to charities, I'll do all this, and then she gets her period, and I'm like, I'm not doing any of that shit. Come on. Gotcha. But no, I think it's great. I love seeing extended parts of my family that like I never really see before. I see, my grandparents a lot, which I think is great. It's important to hang out with your grandparents, at least what I think. I think 90% of the time, old people have a lot of wise, very insightful things to say. The other 10% of the time, unfortunately, is probably going to be the most racist remark you've ever heard in your life. But that's okay, all right? That's the roulette of having grandparents, right? And whenever your grandparents are racist, it's really awkward. It's a really awkward situation, right? Because nobody knows how to act, and everybody kind of like tries to act like it's all cute. Like it's, oh, Gam, you silly girl. You can't call the waiter that. What are you thinking? And it's just, it does, like, anytime I see that, I'm like, how are we letting them get away with this? And I always say that. I'm like, how are we letting them get away with this? And they're always like, oh, well, they don't get it. They're from a different time. They're from a different time. They don't understand that. Like you're trying to teach a caveman calculus, right? Like they're from a different time. I'm just telling grandma she can't N-bomb the Applebee's, but fuck me, I guess, It's whatever, it's fine. And I think that's kind of a piss poor excuse, honestly, being from a different time. I don't think that's a good excuse, right? Because there's a lot of things from different times that we don't do anymore, right? Like we use the bathroom indoors, indoor plumbing, People bathe more than once a month now. Nobody dies from the flu anymore. If Grandpa was shitting outside and he met a swift end by the flu within 3 months, fuck it, he can say whatever he wants for the last 3 months of his life, fine. But, back to stuff kind of like the way time changed, there's one thing that I think we have to go back and revisit, and that's cocaine being in Coca-Cola, okay? I think that's the one time we may have acted a little bit too quickly. We may have made a couple judgments that weren't quite fair. All right, and let me sum this up for you guys, is cocaine was in Coca-Cola until 1929, right? Which seems a little bit too recent. That's not even 100 years. Isn't that kind of crazy, right? And for reference, that's the same year that the stock market crashed. So put two and two together, Talk about a Great Depression, am I right? Imagine being the first guy to drink Coca-Cola after they took it out. And you're just kind of sitting there like a jackass waiting for your bump to hit. Just like, any minute now, I'm going to be fucking soaring. It's tough, man. But it really is crazy how much things change. Like, whether it's 10 years or 100 years, right? Like, and I realized this when we were at a family party. One of my cousins had just had a newborn kid, and, the kid would not stop crying the entire party. Would not stop crying. Everybody was trying to find ways to make this kid stop crying. So my grandmother pipes up and she goes, you should just give him some whiskey. Everybody kind of looked at her odd, and nobody really acknowledged it. Everybody just kind of blew past it. But I was troubled by this, so I had to go over to her and I had to ask, why did you suggest giving the baby whiskey? And she said, well, when I was raising your mom and her brothers, anytime they were crying and they wouldn't stop crying, I'd just give them a little bit of whiskey and make them stop crying. And I said to her, you gave a baby alcohol anytime they were crying. Do you not see how that could cause any problems later on in the future? And she said, no. That wouldn't cause any issues. All my kids have turned out great. And as she was saying this almost perfectly, my uncle on his 4th DUI, gunning for his 5th, takes a running swan dive into the pool fully clothed. Okay? And the only thing I could think was, man, this guy must have cried a lot. Shit. Not too much about me, I don't do too much, but one thing that I think is kind of tough about me is, I'm getting to know myself. I'm kind of learning to love myself a little bit more. But it's kind of interesting the way your significant other will just say something that kind of like throws that out of the loop, right? Like my girlfriend told me I have feminine features, which is not what you want to hear from your girlfriend, that you have feminine features. All right? And I asked her, I said, what do you mean that I have feminine features? And she said, well, it's you're very nurturing and you're very kind. So guess who's not getting any more hugs? All right? Physical touch has gone out the window of our relationship. But she also told me, she's like, well, it's like your body type too. You have kind of feminine hips. And I wasn't very. She fucking knows it. See that shit? You know what you just did for me? She's gonna bring that up for the rest of the night. I am cooked. All right. But she said this to me, and then I was so fed up by this. I was like, fuck this. I need to be more masculine. I punched a hole in the wall and I swayed my hips and I walked off into the sunset. All right. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for being here. Make it loud for your host one more time, Mr. Hunter Ladner.